So we've got quite a few people who are joining here in just a minute who will probably be pinging up, but I will be letting people in as they go. Thanks, guys. So thank you for joining me tonight on Optimize and Leverage LinkedIn. We are going to cover, well, I'm actually going to give you a heck of a lot of good tips. And if you are finding that I'm going a bit fast, well, firstly, please put a comment in the chat box and I'm more than happy to help you out with that. We will have Q&A at the end as well, but also you will be getting this recording within 24 hours of this being released. So you can go through and at any point pause the recording and have a look at the slide that I'm talking about. But I would recommend, if there's something that I say, please have something that you can take notes with tonight, because it's going to be really helpful for you. So without further ado, my name is Emmy, if we haven't met before. I help mid-career professionals unlock their next career steps. And I have been working as a career coach full-time and sometimes part-time since 2013. And my previous background before going into the coaching space was working as in marketing, in sales and project management. And one of my mottos that I often share with both my clients and people in general is life is too short to waste your time where you don't belong or where you don't feel like you're adding value or that you're in the right place. So if you are feeling any flavor of that, rest assured that you're in the right place. And also, if you're looking to, I guess, take your career to the next level and that kind of stuff, you're also in the right place, because a lot of the work that I do is actually with people who want to get promoted or move up in their current company or industry. And LinkedIn is really useful for all of those things. So let's dive straight in. Why should I care about LinkedIn? Well, if you're here today, you probably care a little bit already, but LinkedIn has over 875 million members from over 200 countries. So that is a lot, and that's obviously individual people. But there's also over 58 million companies on LinkedIn. Now, not all of them are, corporates. There's a lot of non-for-profits and other type of organizations that have a company status, but that's a lot of companies. And also some interesting stats for you. I'm not sure if you fall in this age bracket or not, but 60% of LinkedIn users are between 25 and 34 years old. So a lot of people in the slightly younger cohort starting out in their career fall into this category. Importantly, whether you're looking to stay where you are or go somewhere else, 72% of recruiters use LinkedIn when hiring new talent. And yes, they do check your profile, which is possibly why you're here today, because you want to work out how to optimize that. 101 job seekers submit an application on LinkedIn every second. Again, there are some volunteering and other type of positions that are advertised on LinkedIn jobs, but 101 job seekers submit an application every second. That's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it. And finally, every minute, 8 people are hired through LinkedIn jobs. So the thing to be mindful of wherever you're looking to go with your career is that it is a very, very big platform, and it's very underutilized, with a lot of people telling me things which prompted me to put this webinar together. People saying things like, oh, I have a LinkedIn profile, but I'm never on there, or I don't know how to network on LinkedIn. It just feels weird and I don't understand it. So I'm hoping by the end of today that you're going to have a lot more tools in your toolkit to be able to use LinkedIn to lean into whatever of these stats here on the screen right now that is valuable for you. At any point, by the way, when I'm talking through, feel free to take a screenshot if you like. Also, feel free to put a question or something in the chat box, and I will answer it either straight away if it makes sense, or I might wait for the Q&A, because I've had a few people who will be catching the recording who sent me a few questions that they wanted me to answer throughout the presentation, which I have already accounted for. So what are we going to cover today? We're going to cover 5 key things when it comes to LinkedIn. So these 5 key points that you can see on your screen right now: profile basics, your story, skills and keywords, job search and promotions, as well as networking. So we're going to cover some really key tips for each one of these that is going to help you, regardless what your current LinkedIn status is, to really take it to the next level. We're going to do a little Q&A at the end. Like I said, I've had some questions submitted already, which I will attempt to answer as many as possible, but there will also be some great discounts on one-on-one coaching. So if you would like some help with all this LinkedIn stuff, I do that for people, including a review of their CV as well. So wait till the end, and I am a big fan of action taking, so I will definitely be giving you a special rate for one-on-one coaching if that's something you want. Okay, the very first thing with your profile basics, I'm going to assume that you either have a LinkedIn profile or you're in the process of setting one up. The first tip that I really want to stress, especially if you're in a company already and you are connected with people on LinkedIn, the moment you start making changes to your profile, unless you've changed the LinkedIn setting, people in your networks will be notified. So they will get that little red thing, LinkedIn thing, which is like, so-and-so has changed this job or etc. So if you're at all worried about your current company or people in your current network knowing about you doing this LinkedIn optimization, please turn off profile updates in your settings before you touch anything else. If you already started doing things, that's totally fine. But I just want to give you this tip because I've seen it cause issues for people in roles in the past. So go into settings, visibility, and change the share profile updates with your network to off. What that means is that you can tinker away in the background and no one is going to see it, and you can do that without being other people knowing it. So when you've done that, if that is important to you, you may want people to see that you're active on LinkedIn. It's certainly not a bad thing. I'm just mentioning it up front because I don't want it to cause issues for you. But there are three main things that I always say to people to have on your LinkedIn profile if you don't already. Now, it goes without saying, LinkedIn, like any other social media platform, regularly do change what things they, promote in the social media algorithm. But a basic rule of thumb with LinkedIn is to have a background image. Now, I've used my own profile here as an example. You don't have to have a fancy banner or anything. You can make a banner if you like with something like canva.com for free. But if you don't really want that, you could just put a photo or a block of color here. The main thing is that LinkedIn prefers it to not be that default blue wavy line thing that is on your profile when you first start it. So part of your profile optimization is to put something here that's not the default. For a long time before I started coaching, I had a photo here of my favorite hike and like a path through the wilderness. So as long as it's somewhat professional or somewhat resonates with you, that is totally fine. Next up, out of the basics, is a profile picture. So it does not have to be a professional one. If you don't have a professional photo, get your partner or housemate to take one of you. Decent lighting, no sunglasses, on a neutral background and a cropped in headshot. Similar to what you see here, so that people can see that you're a real person. I'm still blown away today by how many people don't have a profile picture. And it's not just for optimization. Imagine a recruiter or someone looking you up on LinkedIn, because I assure you they do, and we'll talk about that in a second. Having a profile picture is a huge missing out thing if you don't have it. So add something nice and neutral to show on your profile. And then finally, we've got name and headline. So hopefully you can see the cursor moving on my screen here, but where it says Emmy Peterson, the mid-career coach, I've actually done a sneaky little trick here, and I've put Emmy Peterson as my first name in the settings on LinkedIn, and I've put the mid-career coach as my last name. So what that means is that this is the tagline that people will see when I comment on something or interact with content. So if you are in some kind of business or where your profession or your profile matters, I would say something like this can be a really nifty hack to put in there. I have clients and friends who have something, like the yoga instructor or things like that, so that it comes up a little bit more prominently. But if you don't have that, you could literally just I could have put Emmy, first name, Peterson, surname with no symbol, and that would have been fine as well. The thing underneath your name on LinkedIn is called a headline. So the default I typically see here is that people have their current job title. And there's nothing wrong with that. However, if you are looking to grow or expand or do something slightly different, you can actually change this, similar to what I've done, to put what it actually is that I do or what I'm passionate about. So when I worked in marketing, this could have just said, for example, marketing manager, but you can put anything you want here. You could say, I could have said marketing and campaign optimization, which would make me more searchable for those types of roles, if that is what I was interested in. So it's nothing wrong with having your job title here if that is the most relevant thing for you, but do consider 2 to 3 keywords that you would actually like people to see. You know, if you're in finance, you could have something like financial optimization and Xero, etc., etc., if that is a system you've got a lot of experience with. So those are your basics. And if you're feeling very overwhelmed with all the other things I'll talk about today, then start with this. This is totally fine. And even if you already have a profile and you haven't looked at it or done anything with it for a while, start with this. It can be really, really helpful. And by the way, this is not very intrusive if you did forget to turn off those notification settings we talked about. This is perfectly fine. Just be aware that it might start pinging notifications in people's LinkedIn feed that you are updating things on your feed. So I'm just going to double check if we have anyone else asking any questions. No, we've got a couple of people joining us in a little bit, I believe, so that's all fine. Okay. Moving along to the second point, which is your story. I get questions about this all the time, so I wanted to share as much as possible with you today. So we're going to talk about your past story, and on the next slide, we're going to talk about positioning yourself or your future story, as in where are you wanting to go from here. So your past story on LinkedIn is basically mostly the stuff that's on your CV. I'm going to cover some commonly asked questions in just a second about this, but essentially this is a section on LinkedIn that's called experience. And what you want to do here is you want to put past roles, literally just copy paste what's on your CV. If you haven't updated your CV for a while, let me know and I'm happy to send you some resources and templates for that following this session. Another thing you want to do as the second point here is to link the correct company. And I've left this on here as an example. You can see here that I have linked my work with the Bridge Coaching, which is my own business, to the company page. So you can see a logo coming up here. Let's say that I worked for McDonald's and I didn't find McDonald's in the LinkedIn search algorithm, which you can search for when you put in a particular role. It would come up like this. So it would say McDonald's team member, and it would be grayed out like this, which means it's not actually linked to a company. Now, this particular experience is my own podcast, and I have purposefully not set up a company on LinkedIn for that. But it does look a lot better when you are affiliated with the right business. And also make sure if there are several different types of businesses or different entities around the world of the business that you work for, that you've actually picked the right one. If you're not sure and you work for a company already, chat to either your marketing team or your HR team, and they should be able to let you know which the right one is to affiliate your experience with. Similar to your CV, you want to include things like your role title, the location you worked at the business for, the period of time that you were there. And also don't forget about key responsibilities and achievements. Did you deliver particular projects? Did you launch a new website? Did you implement a new finance system? Anything that you were part of delivering that created a lot of value for the organization, even if you were just a contractor, put a little blurb about it in your profile. If you have a longer description, so you'll see here on the podcast host side, it says see more. So if your description or your listing of that role is longer than about 2 sentences, people will have to click to see more. But believe me, a recruiter or a future employer often will do this. So just make sure that whatever is on here is consistent. Point number 4, consistent with your CV. I'm seeing more and more people when they submit their CV for a role and they do that in a PDF format, you can actually hyperlink to your LinkedIn profile from your CV. This is if you're doing it in PDF format, which I always recommend to my clients, because when you send a CV in as a PDF, you know that whatever you sent is exactly how it's going to open for the other person. So you can URL link from your CV straight into your LinkedIn profile so that your future employer can see that you are indeed the same person on all these different platforms. My final little hack when you're looking at your past, your experience, etc., is to look and preview your own profile to see how it would look to someone you are not connected with on LinkedIn. Much like other social media platforms, you can have a closed profile, but if you are in the market to for another job or a promotion or something, I would highly recommend that you are as open as possible. Maybe don't leave your email and phone number right out there for anyone to spam you, but do make sure that you are easy to find. So if you go into your browser and you're logged into LinkedIn, you can take this URL link here on the screen. You can take a screenshot if you want and go and double check what your profile looks like in different settings. That way you'll know what it looks like to a recruiter or a potential manager that has never met you. And that's essentially it about your past story. But now we're going to look at a couple of questions I get all the time when it comes to this. So what if I worked casual roles or contracts? And let's say hypothetically you had 3 years in your life where no role that you had, or a year in your life where no role was ever longer than a month because you were doing contracting through a recruitment agency. You can make that one of your line items. It's fine if it doesn't have a company, because if it was for several different companies, or perhaps if you worked through a specific recruiter, then you can put that recruitment company. But you could literally just put, whatever month in 2013 to whatever month 2023, and literally just put various contracting roles in admin across X, Y, and Z sector. It's harder in these instances to have specific responsibilities and achievements, but do try to talk about that period so someone who's interviewing with you is not going to be confused as to what the heck you did during that time. It's totally fine to be in periods when we're either studying, or maybe you started your own business on the side or something else that we can easily explain. But by being transparent about it and showing it up front, people don't have to guess why there's a 5-year gap, etc., on your CV. Another question which kind of segues into that is, what if I had a career break? What if I studied? What if I was on parental leave? What if I just had some mental health stuff that I needed to deal with and I took a couple of months off? My general rule of thumb, and there's no exact rule around this, every recruiter I chat to about this will have a different view. But normally, if it's a longer career break of 3 months or more, you can literally just put traveled Southeast Asia or whatever it was that you did, or parental leave, with my first child, or whatever you want to put there. It is very normal to have breaks in our CV, breaks in our work experience. If you decided to study something and worked part-time, you can obviously still list the part-time work that you did. I certainly did that when I studied coaching. But it's totally up to you how you want to language this. But if you had a longer career break, which I know a lot of people have had, of a year or more, you can literally just put that as a line item and explain as much or as little in detail of what you did during that period. It will just help someone who's recruiting you to not have to guess what that period in your life was about. Which leads me to the third question, and I had this sent through from someone just today, so I wanted to answer it here on the call, and it is, what past roles are actually relevant? Look, this is a tricky one, because if you're anything like me, I'm in my 40s, and before I started my coaching business, I had several different roles across a range of industries, and I started out at 16 in hospitality working at McDonald's. Now, I don't actually have McDonald's on my LinkedIn or my CV anymore, but for quite a few years, I actually did. So there's no hard and fast rule exactly how far back you should go. My general guidance would be at least 10 years. So if you're just starting out in your career, do put all those first couple of jobs that you had. And even if you've changed what you're doing or positioned into a different industry, that is totally fine. I often got questions back in the day that I was so passionate about project management and marketing and coaching. But when I got to an interview, and also in my applications and in my cover letter, I I sewed that together. I told a bit of a story simply because all of those things, project management, marketing, and coaching, are all about human behavior. And I had a really clear narrative as to the value and how they kind of tied together. So it's not always easy. It depends on the recruiter or potential manager at the other side of the table. But I trust that it makes sense for you when I share that, because I get this question all the time and there's no exact rule. I think you will know when you have enough experience, enough relevant roles, or enough roles where you learnt something tangible or delivered something tangible. For example, I had a client who had moved into a very different space, but they delivered a lot of events and admin projects early on in their career. So that person actually decided to leave them in their LinkedIn and most of their CVs, with the view that it showed organization skills, responsibility, ability to juggle a lot of different priorities. So even though they weren't working in the event space anymore, it showed that they were able to. So if you have past roles that help tell your story, then leave them in. Which ties into the other half of your story. And this sounds a bit philosophical perhaps, but your future story. A lot of people that I work with, and perhaps for some of you on the call tonight, you might be looking to do something a little bit different. And you're like, well, how do I tie in where I've been with this new different thing that I'm looking to do? Now, obviously, we'd need to have a chat one-on-one for me to get to know exactly what that is for you. But I will talk a little bit about this from the perspective that I've found very helpful, considering I moved from the corporate world, project management and marketing, into running my own coaching business. So that it meant for a few years that I had to kind of be mindful of how I was portraying myself specifically on LinkedIn. So how do we do that? Well, a mentor of mine said to me many years ago, pick 3 key topics that you want to be known for and talk about them. So hypothetically, if you were really passionate about systems and processes, but you also really care about sustainability and mental health, post about that, share about that, follow people on LinkedIn who post about that, interact with that content, so that over time, even if you're only on LinkedIn once every fortnight or something, people get used to seeing that those 3 key themes are things that you always talk about. And this helps especially those pivoters into a new field. I remember another client of mine went from finance into health coaching, and they stayed working in finance half-time, but they went part-time into health coaching. So again, we picked financial systems and procedures, health coaching, and another keyword. And that person, that was what they talked about. That's what their profile was all about. So if that helps you, feel free to take that on board and test it out. Next up, what you want to do is build out your about section. I have a sample here. This sample comes from a LinkedIn blog, specifically showcasing how different about sections can look. So you see before, so this is the name and the title of this particular individual. Again, this comes from a LinkedIn help article. And the about section for this person is actually, as you can probably tell if you've been reading along on the screen or if you've taken a screenshot here, this is actually a very personalized story. This person is talking about the first memory from school, being the voice for those who can't communicate for themselves, etc., and tying it back specifically in this person's case to recruitment. So about sections on LinkedIn don't have to be as formal as some people think that they do. And my biggest thing with your about section is talk in the I format. Your profile should not be written by a robot or somebody else in third person. Write it as if it's you writing it, because this is pretty much your picture and the things on the previous slides, your name and your title, and your about section is by default one of the first things people are going to see when they click on your profile. So use this little window. You can make it long, you can make it shorter than what you see on the screen at the moment. This is just really to give you an idea. Third one down, which is interesting for both the Swedes and the Australians out there. I know there's this whole tall poppy syndrome, or don't be too special, don't brag about yourself. In your about section and as you're cultivating your LinkedIn profile, it's okay to brag a little and be proud of the achievements that you had. If you delivered a really complex project or dealt with a really difficult customer, that is okay to mention that and be really proud of managing that. So it's okay to talk about the great things that you did and brag a little bit, and even weave it into your about section if it's appropriate. And when it comes to the future story, the other thing that you can do with LinkedIn, so I encourage you after this and after you've turned off those notifications, there are a lot of different sections on your LinkedIn page. And if you're fairly familiar with LinkedIn, you'll go, duh, Emmy, I know that already. If you don't, I'm just going to talk you through what they are. So underneath those pictures and headlines and about sections we talked about, there are a lot of other things like your skills, your activity feed. So you can hide this if you don't want other people to see it, but your activity feed shows other people who go to your profile what you have interacted with recently. If you've liked, if you've commented, if you've reshared a post from your company, etc. So the activity feed you can put as high or as low on your page as you want, or if you don't want it to be visible to connections or publicly, you can turn it off. So play around with that when you have time. Other key sections are education, volunteering, skills, etc. But we'll talk more about skills in just a moment. But being really mindful of your future story is actually thinking about where you are looking to go. So in my case, when I was looking to go from the corporate world into full-time coaching, I had to be a little bit mindful of how I wanted that to look to people who were looking at my profile. So just have a think about that, and it does not have to be perfect. Just one little step to get us started is plenty. All right, we're going to dive into the next section in just a second, but I'm just going to pause briefly and see if there were any questions at this point, or if we were happy to wait until the Q&A. Just going to see what's going on here. No, it looks like we're all good. If you can think of anything, feel free to put it in the chat box and I'm happy to answer it as I go through. All right, 3 out of 4, we're almost there. Sorry, 3 out of 5, I can't count today. Skills and keywords. Essentially, you want to make it as easy as possible for the right people to find you. Now, who are the right people? It's obviously the people that you want to connect, network with, and or work for. So how you can do that, it's pretty simple. Include as many skills as you can in the skills section on your LinkedIn page. You can choose of existing ones. For example, if you go into that section and search for project management, Xero, finance, budgeting systems, whatever it is that you have a skill in, marketing, campaign planning, project management, anything like that, you can search for those and you can add them. If the particular skill, like, I don't know, HubSpot CRM, which I think is in there, but let's say hypothetically it wasn't, you can actually add your own line items as well. But definitely do include any systems that you are familiar with, any languages that you speak and things like that, because this will help boost how searchable your profile is. You can also list specific skills in your about section, plus under relevant roles. So let's pretend that during one of my roles in marketing, I implemented the HubSpot CRM across the whole business. So that can be a really useful thing to put as a bullet point under that role. Led the implementation of HubSpot CRM across an organization of 100+ people, hypothetically. Project management can be another keyword, etc. But do put it in, but don't force it in, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Just organically put it in where it makes sense to put that in your profile. The fourth one is that classic, give and you shall receive. So go around and endorse other people that you know. If there's someone that you worked with that you just connected with on LinkedIn, or you've been connected for a while, hop over to their profile and feel free to endorse them. It always makes me happy still to this day when people come from my old marketing world and they endorse me for marketing skills from that time. So if you just go to someone's profile, you scroll down in their profile to skills, if they have that profile part visible, you just click endorse. There's just a little button right next to that particular skill, project management, finance, whatever it is, and then you endorse them and they will get a notification that so-and-so endorsed you for this skill. And odds are they are gonna then go and do the same thing for you. So be generous with these sort of things as well and help other people along. I do this all the time. I set a little timer quite often to do this on my own profile. So, job search tips. Now, some of you listening, I know that there are a few people who are catching the recording who said that you're not really in the market for a job. You just want to kind of step up in the organization you're already working in. That is fine. If nothing else, start with the first profile optimization tips we talked about and make sure that you actually have a profile that's up to date and accurate. But if you want to take things to the next level, definitely go and explore the jobs section on LinkedIn. If you're based in Australia and New Zealand, seek.com.au or the equivalent LinkedIn is just as big. You remember the stats from the very first beginning, every minute 8 people get hired through LinkedIn. It is a lot of jobs that are posted on here. It can be a little bit disheartening sometimes because when you apply for a job through a LinkedIn listing, they don't always show the salary, which I find very difficult because I personally think that we should be transparent with the salary range on the roles advertised, but that's besides the point. But secondly, you also see how many other people have applied, and don't let this discourage you if it's a very big number. You saw before that 101 people apply for jobs, every so often on LinkedIn. There's a lot of roles going on LinkedIn, including volunteering gigs. So don't feel disheartened. Please do put your hand up if it is something that you want to do. Next up, a thing you can do, even if you're not actively looking for work, is set up job alerts for any companies you'd actually like to work for, including the current company. So hopefully you've linked your profile to the right business, but you can also subscribe to job alerts from your company, meaning if you work in a pretty big company, you will be notified if your HR department was to post a role on LinkedIn for that business. So it means that you can keep your eye on and you just get an email notification. You can choose if you want it daily, weekly, or only when there is an update, and it will ping into your inbox and let you know. The third really cool thing with job search, and this goes into promotions as well, is to research position descriptions and skill sets for the types of roles you want to go for. Now, you can obviously do this on Seek or whatever other job search platform you choose to use. That's totally fine. But you can learn a lot about just looking, okay, let's say that I wanted to go into a marketing manager role in a non-for-profit. I could have a job search so that I found roles like that and I could see, well, what skill set are they asking for? They're asking for 3 to 5 years experience. Well, I don't quite have that yet. What else are they asking for? Is there a diploma, a degree, an experience that I can get with a particular system that would likely get me across the line? You can also then get a feel for salary expectations where those are listed. And the fourth one, when it comes to both job search and promotions, is to interact with your company. So you're probably following your company already. If you're not, go up in the little search box at the very top, search for your company name, go there, click follow. It means that will come up in your feed whenever you log into LinkedIn and your company has posted about something. When I used to work in marketing and put up a lot of our social marketing collateral, I was amazed to see how few team members actually like, share, and comment on the company's posts. But it's one of the quickest ways for a company to reach more people. So if your marketing team or sales teams, etc., see you interacting with the content and helping spread the word, if you can like and stand for what the company stands for, you are really their ally, and it can really help you when it comes to promotions. This does not take long, which we'll get to on the next slide. So that's tip number 4. We're going to round off with the final tip for tonight, which is to spend 5 minutes per working day, or about 30 minutes a week, however you prefer to slice this, to build your network. I hear people say all the time, LinkedIn is so overwhelming, I don't even know what I'm meant to do on there. So if that's how you feel at all, follow these very simple points to get started and put either 5 minutes a day or half an hour on a, Wednesday or Friday morning, whenever is good for you. And use that time in the following ways. Connect with past and current colleagues. Many of us lose contact with people when we moved on from a company, but LinkedIn is a fabulous way to stay connected to those people. And it can be as simple as sending them a message and just going, which ties in with the second point, send them a message and say, hey, John, I stumbled on you here. It's been so long since we worked together at X company. Would love to stay connected on LinkedIn and see how you're going. So whether you are connecting with someone that you know or that you used to work with, or a complete stranger that you stumble on LinkedIn and you go, they look really interesting, always send a message. I had a post recently that almost went viral, which was basically, would you walk down the road and throw your business card in people's faces, hoping they will catch it? You probably wouldn't. It's a pretty crazy strategy, although it could probably get a lot of attention for some people. But essentially what you want to do if you're sending a connection request to someone, I categorically decline people who try to connect with me without a message. It can be as simple as going, hey, John, I saw that post you did about sustainable environmental energy. I thought it was so inspiring. I just want to stay connected so I can follow some of your great content. Whether or not you're going to check in with the person and however true that is, that's kind of fine. But if you can't come up with a one-liner as to why you want to connect with them, then don't do that. You know, a personal message, which is possible to almost everyone on LinkedIn, except if they have a protected profile, which is reasonably unusual. Third point when it comes to networking is comment on, like, or share engaging posts. So for example, I really love the work that they do over at Flexa Jobs. They're a lot about remote work and they share interesting stats all the time about remote work. If you want to check out my LinkedIn after this call, I actually shared one of their posts just today about some statistics around the 4-week work week and some statistics and productivity on how that works. So not only did I like the post on their page and comment on it, but I also shared it on my own page and said, these are some really interesting stats. What are your thoughts, etc. So that's something that you can do. And you can also tag the company or the person who did the original post if you want, so that they see that you've shared it. So it's like a little love circle. And finally, do initiate contact or follow up with direct messages. The worst thing that can happen is that they don't answer. A hands-on example from myself on this very thing is that, you know, when I started my podcast last year, it's been up and running for about 9 months now. It's called Career Defining Moments. If you haven't checked it out, feel free to go on your podcast platform and have a look. But I did reach out to a few people who were in my network, who's been in my network for a long time. And about half of them or a few more actually responded and said, thanks for the invite, Emmy. I would love to be on your podcast. And a handful of them didn't. And whether it's because they're too busy or something else, it doesn't really matter. And I don't take personal offense to it. But my point is, if you don't ask, you'll never get. So if you have anything that you want to share, whether it's how you liked how they dealt with something, or if you saw them present somewhere, send them a message. If you don't ask or if you don't interact, you'll never know what could have come out of it. So networking doesn't have to be a huge thing. And all these strategies that I've written here are actually incredibly safe, especially for people who are a little bit more introverted and a little bit more quiet and shy. So that was a lot of content. You're going to have that whole recording in your inbox in about 24 hours time. But I wanted to leave you with the 2 key principles that will help you through LinkedIn and pretty much everything else, which is progress over perfection. Even if you just start with step 1 and 2, get your profile basics, start crafting your story, maybe dabble into step 3 a little bit, that is fine. Because the second part of this is consistent, small action steps is the thing that's going to move you forward by far the quickest. Now, if you would like some help to get moving, I would like to extend this offer to you. This is only available via this webinar, and the $50 off promo code is only available for a 3-week period. So if you would like some help with LinkedIn, or you find all this a bit confusing, how do I talk about my strengths? How do I position that? This is kind of where I'm looking to go. I'm struggling with that. I have a $4.99 bundle that you can then get $50 discount on with the promo code on your screen at the moment. So you get 2 one-on-one sessions with me. You get access to an online disc test. You get access to CV, LinkedIn, and cover letter templates, so that I can basically help you fast track a lot of the things that we talked about in today's webinar. So that's a pretty dang good deal at $4.99 with $50 off as well. So it takes it down to $4.49. which is a lot less than my one-on-one coaching work usually is. And these are 2 60-minute sessions. So we can actually do a heck of a lot in that period of time. So if that's interesting to you at all, feel free to head over to thebridgecoaching.com.au/shop. It's the first product linked on that page if you want to learn and read a little bit more detail about it. Or you can obviously send me a message as well. So I know that I've been talking very fast and sharing a lot, and you might be feeling a bit overwhelmed, but I would love to open up and see if you have any questions or if there are any particular slides that you would like me to go back to. I know that I answered a few questions already, so I will let you have a little think and have a drink of water while I wait. You're probably busy thinking and reflecting, so I thought I'd share one question that actually I just recalled then that came through to me via LinkedIn earlier today. And it was someone that I used to work with asked me, should I connect with my manager, like my current manager on LinkedIn? And I think the answer to that, generally speaking, is, well, first of all, don't be afraid to connect with anyone in your current business, whether you work with them day to day or not. If you think that's a person that would be useful to follow or know, then by all means reach out and say, hey, I don't work a lot with your department, but it'd be great to stay connected here on LinkedIn. So you could easily do that. If you feel like there's a particular reason that you wouldn't want to connect with your boss, that, I don't know, you're sharing content or something else that you don't want them to see, then you probably do want to think about if you have any connections in common. Because let's say that if you are not connected with your boss, but you're connected with Jamie in this other team at your work, and Jamie and you interact with the same stuff, that your boss may or may not still see some of the stuff or some of the activity that you have on LinkedIn. So it's very much up to you how comfortable you are, but also be very aware that anything that you put up in the public world on LinkedIn is visible to a lot of people, unless you've gone through those settings we talked about before and limited your profile. Any final thoughts, questions? Hopefully that was useful. Hopefully you're both still awake. I think we've got 2 people on the live call still, and obviously quite a few that are going to be catching the recording. Cool. Well, it sounds like you guys got a lot of value to reflect on. It's been great chatting with you. Obviously, I'd be more than happy to chat to you. Do look out in your inbox within 24 hours, probably tomorrow morning. You will have an email from me with the recording to this webinar. If you are on Gmail, make sure to check your promo folder, because sometimes Gmail files the emails in the promo folder rather than the other one. But it's been so lovely to connect with you on the call tonight. Can I share the recording with my friend? Yes, absolutely. Feel free to forward the message on to them. I also do offer a complimentary discovery call. So if that program that I shared for $4.99 is not exactly what you're looking for at the moment, it is a very good value bundle to do one-on-one coaching. It's very affordable. But if you're not really sure what you need, I also offer a free complimentary discovery call where we have a quick chat for 20 minutes about your situation, completely confidential, to find out where you're at and what you might be looking for. So yeah, absolutely happy for you to share that. There will also be a link in the email as to how you can book a discovery call with me if that's something you're interested in. All right, well, thank you so much for being here, and to all of you catching the recording later, thank you so much for registering. I have had so much fun sharing these tips with you. I know there's a lot there, but just start small, start updating one little thing, make yourself a list, and before you know it, your LinkedIn will be updated and optimized and delivering you great connections that are actually possibly even recruiters finding you, etc., which is happening more and more in the job market we're in at the moment. So I'm really keen for you to give yourself the best chance of career success this year and beyond. And I'd love to help you with that. So thank you so much, everyone. I look forward to see you in some form in the future, and have a great evening.